Next up, podcast listeners, we have California must recall and replace Lockdown Newsom. That's right, California must recall and replace Lockdown Gavin Newsom. So, recalling Governor Newsom is picking up some steam, and everybody knows it. We have ABC 10 News, who frames the recall issue. And they're also interviewing Randy Economy. That's the guy's name, Randy Economy. He's the founder of Recall Gavin 2020. And we have a clip on that, but before we have the clip played, I just want to set this up and let you guys know that the people of California have had it with Gavin Newsom because of the massive amount of crime that is occurring in the state, the declining standard of living for the average Californian, and in addition to that, the lockdowns, which are, quite frankly, idiocy at this particular point in time. Because everybody knows what their unique situation is if they want to stay home or if they want to go out. But Gavin Newsom doesn't care. And of course, it didn't help Gavin Newsom that after he locked everybody down, he went out and had a dinner that cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars, of course, in the rich wine country of California, while everybody else had to be locked down. But nonetheless, here's ABC 10 News framing the recall issue and interviewing Randy Economy, the founder of Recall Gavin 2020. Even though it's 2021, they're still trying to recall him, of course. We have that clip, and here it is.
Governor Newsom has already faced a handful of recall efforts during his time in office, but all of those failed before they ever reached voters. The people behind this latest effort tell me they have the support they need to succeed.
He's done this to himself.
Randy Economy, the senior advisor to Recall Gavin 2020, says the governor's mismanagement of business shutdowns during the pandemic is the driving force behind their effort to oust him.
More people have suffered who are the heart and soul of California and the backbone of our economy. And we basically have had it and said, now is the right time for the recall.
So this is important, right? Because you heard the framing of the Recall Gavin issue. And it's important because this is entirely possible now that Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, could not only be recalled, but obviously lose in the recall election. And so I would love to see that. I know all of you out there would love to see that. By the way, you know what's interesting? Even independents and Democrats in California would love to see that. I am convinced, and it's entirely possible, that Californians could say, you know what? By Californians, I mean many of the Democrat Californians and the progressives might just hold their nose and say, I'm actually going to vote for a Republican governor because, hey, that guy Gavin Newsom's just so awful. I'm going to hold my nose as a Democrat and do that. I think that's entirely possible. Well, here's Fox business anchor David Asman. He's a business anchor on Fox News, interviewing former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer, okay? And he wants to know, hey, is it the governor's pandemic policies that are causing the recall efforts? Well, obviously, that's the primary reason, but there are a lot of other reasons as well, which we will go into. So we have a clip on this interview from David Asman interviewing San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer, and here it is.
Is it the pandemic itself and the arbitrary rules, and as you say, not many of them not following the science, that the governor's been involved with? Is that really what pushed many over the edge in calling for a recall?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that, and I also think it's the hypocrisy that we've seen from the governor. But I also think, again, there's so many other issues. For example, homelessness continuing to skyrocket in so many cities across California. Here in San Diego County, we were the only region where over the last 2 years, homelessness actually went down by double digits. So I think it's time to bring a change, somebody who can actually make a difference, get this state back. We need a California comeback, and we need it soon.
That sounds like a great soundbite to me. We need a California comeback, and we need it soon. And that's San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer talking to David Asman, a Fox business anchor. I mean, just brilliant. I mean, it's entirely possible that this is the guy that could replace Gavin Newsom. And as I said, it's also entirely possible that independents and folks who are progressive Democrats, it's possible, they might actually hold their noses and vote for Kevin Faulconer because they're like, hey, it just can't get any worse than where we are now with homelessness, joblessness, shut down businesses, the lockdown, massive amounts of crime, and needles on the street everywhere, a California poop patrol. I mean, the first state ever to do that. I mean, how disgusting is that? Tells you everything you need to know about where the state is headed. So David Asman of Fox News asks, how about all the companies leaving California? Look, if you ever want to hear a great framed argument of why we should elect Kevin Faulconer as governor of California after we recall Gavin Newsom, Kevin Faulconer, the former mayor of San Diego, does just a terrific job framing why he should be governor. And we have that clip. Listen closely. Here it is.
The strength of the economy of any state, and particularly here in San Diego, is our small businesses, our medium-sized businesses, and of course our large businesses that create literally tens of thousands of jobs. And to see that flight that has been occurring out of our state, it's unacceptable. We need a governor that recognizes we want you to be located in California. We're going to actually cut regulations to make you successful, particularly as we get on the other side of this pandemic, to put Californians back to work and not have the attitude that says all these companies can leave and it's okay. It's not okay. We need to change that dynamic. And that's something that I think folks are ready for a change, and Californians are ready to get back to work safely.
Exactly. It's not okay that these companies are leaving. And yet the arrogance of Gavin Newsom and the Democrat Party is, oh, we're California. We make new businesses and create new businesses every day, including these big tech giants and all of these technology companies. I mean, we don't care if we lose some of these businesses to Texas or to Nevada or to Arizona. We don't care. We're California. And Faulconer's going, you know what? The problems are much greater than that now, because the exodus of these businesses of all different sizes, it's actually accelerating. And since it's accelerating, we should also look at the fact that if we had more of these small businesses here, if we lifted the lockdowns, then we wouldn't have as much homelessness because more people would be actually working in the workforce. I mean, folks, this is just such easy, simple stuff, right? But isn't it amazing? It requires Kevin Faulconer, a former San Diego mayor who happens to be a Republican, just to kind of like bring some common sense back to the state of California and back to the debate of what California needs to do in order to recover. Because right now, California, in as much as it is still collecting, record amounts of revenue from these big high-tech businesses and so forth in Silicon Valley, doesn't change the fact that the rest of the state is completely in trouble. And so if you want to, look, podcast listeners, if you want to see and hear the real difference between the way a great state is run and the way you can run a great state into the ground, you have to hear Governor DeSantis of Florida, okay? So Newsom, of course, Governor Newsom of California, he's all woke and he doesn't really want to do the right thing. I actually think Newsom knows what the right thing is, but he's terrified of doing it because he wants to be president of the United States. So instead of doing the right thing for a state and just leaving office and being happy that he did the right thing, no, he wants to be president. So he has to do whatever the far left progressives tell him to do. But not Governor DeSantis. Governor DeSantis, who's the governor of Florida, okay? In contrast to Newsom, DeSantis in Florida, he hasn't locked down his state. You want to know how I know this? Not just because of what I read. I was just there, podcast listeners, okay? I was in Florida, okay, just last week, and I was there for, 7-8 days, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it. And I'm there in Florida because I went there because I wanted to see with my own eyes what it looked like as compared to what I was reading about Florida. And guess what? What I was reading is 100% true. Florida is open for business, and I mean open. The restaurants are completely open, completely. The streets are open. People are outside walking. You can go anywhere in Florida. By the way, the nightclubs are open in Florida. The nightclubs are open. We went to this one place that had a series of restaurants. It was kind of like a restaurant row, and there were a couple of nightclubs, and they were semi-indoor, semi-outdoor, and they were just packed with people. And I know that if you're from a place like California, or if you're from a place like Maryland, your first reaction would be, oh my gosh, those people are terrible. They're going to spread. It's like a super spreader event. That's what, of course, the far left always says. because they want to completely and utterly control your life. And of course, people like me and others like me, including Governor DeSantis in Florida, say, you know what? Then don't go to those places. Don't go. Don't let anyone in your house that tells you that they are going to those places. If you're that fearful about just living your life, don't go. All right? Pretty simple stuff. Take more precautions, but let those people live their lives. That's exactly what Florida has done under Governor DeSantis, ladies and gentlemen. And if that isn't enough, Florida is accelerating the vaccine to the elderly and to nursing homes, because Florida has a massive elderly population, obviously, because so many people retire in Florida. Makes perfect sense because the weather is terrific. So we're trying to draw this contrast and this compare and contrast between Florida and California and between their two governors, because the weather is similar. All right? I mean, let's face it, California has terrific weather. Florida does too. Weather is similar. The environments are beautiful, no doubt about that. But the governing style is completely polar opposite. So Governor DeSantis, of course, gets all these vaccinations. He's rolling out the vaccinations to make sure that first responders and the elderly get the vaccinations first. They get the COVID vaccination first. And naturally, the press plays gotcha with the governor in a press conference. And in that press conference, the governor is actually at, I believe, a nursing home talking to many leaders in the elderly community and the retirement community. And naturally, the press plays gotcha because they're like, well, Governor DeSantis, you know, when are you going to get vaccinated? You're going to get vaccinated like real soon? And DeSantis does such an amazing job because this is what you want to hear from your governor. And I got to tell you something, when you hear DeSantis say it, you know it's true, because this is the guy that has, what, the third largest state in the country, I think, after Texas, and in terms of population, and yet it's completely and utterly open. And so he does what he says he's going to do, which is very unique in politics, and he also does what he says he's going to do when it comes to vaccinations. So they try the hit job. Well, Governor DeSantis, you're going to take the vaccination, and he has a great response. We have that clip, and here it is.
No, so what I've said is I'm willing to take it, but I am not the priority. They're the priority. I'm under 45, and so the people under 45 are not going to be first in line for this. And so when it's my turn, I will take it. But this is who I want to be vaccinated. I want my parents, our grandparents, to be able to get it. And, you know, granted, I mean, I'm an elected official, but whoop-de-doo. At the end of the day, let's focus where the risk is.
So he gets a standing ovation, of course, from his elderly audience and his retired audience about, you know, this is great. I mean, here's a politician who's actually saying, look, I'll take the vaccination when it's time for me to take the vaccination, but I'm not in a hurry to get it because there's so many other people who are priority before me. And who cares? Whoop-de-doo, I'm just a politician. Doesn't mean that I'm, you know, that I should just get it because I'm a politician, the vaccination, before everybody else. Makes perfect sense. But of course, didn't change the fact that the press was trying to play gotcha with that. And then he moves forward and he lays out very clearly who should get the vaccination. And you know it's going to be happening in Florida, that they're going to do a great job in Florida in getting this rolled out. Compare that to Gavin Newsom, right? Compare that to Newsom. In California, they can't even roll out the vaccine and decide who's going to get it because they've turned it into a political issue rather than a science-driven issue. And that is on top of all of the other problems that California has. I mean, this guy, Gavin Newsom, when I see him, podcast listeners, I just see a pretty boy. That's what he is. He's like this pretty boy Californian, you know, grew up with a lot of money, spent his days on the beach growing up, great life, doesn't really care much about you, just cares about staying elected, and that's what he has to do to please his left-wing, you know, supporters. So that's a great compare and contrast between Governor DeSantis of Florida and Governor Newsom of California. And that is, California must recall and replace Lockdown Newsom.